Hi everyone, welcome to our webinar dedicated to customer-centric technologies with core banking systems. My name is Alex, and I would like to give maybe a couple more minutes for the rest of the attendees today to join. So we're going to start shortly. Please leave a comment in the questions area whether you can hear me okay, and we're going to start in just a couple of minutes. Thank you. Okay, perfect. So let's get going. Hi again, everyone. My name is Alex Petronenko, Product Evangelist at Creatio. Today, I'm joined by Eric Hale, Director of Business Enablement in Creatio as well. Eric, say hi to our attendees today.
Hey guys, and welcome.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Eric. So today we're going to be talking about integrating customer-centric technologies with core banking systems and best practices that Croatia has actually established over the many years of working with very different banks, financial organizations, and institutions. And we're going to divide this into a couple of tracks where my dear friend Eric is going to be helping me out with some of the slides and some of the information. But before we jump into it, what I would like to probably do is to give a quick reminder to our attendees about who Croatia is. Croatia is a truly global organization with 5 offices around the globe, but the outreach of Croatia has actually been spread through more than 110 countries with the help of our network partners. And as of now, we have more than 700 partners across all of the different regions and countries. But of course, the true power of Croatia is within the employees. We currently are more than 650 people strong. And what is quite impressive about this number is that more than a half of these employees are actually in research and development and focus around developing the great functionalities and features of our platform. Now, of course, the platform itself has been recognized by key industry analysts such as Gartner and Forrester. We are currently represented in 5 Gartner Magic Quadrants that are evaluating and analyzing very different areas of applications in different markets and industries. So as you probably know, we are recognized quite well in the CRM suite for Salesforce automation, for lead management, and for customer engagement centers. But we have also been recognized in enterprise low-code application platforms and, of course, in IBPMS systems as well. And with the Forrester, we are represented in 7 Forrester waves, again, covering the CRM suites, dynamic platform applications, and of course, in healthcare CRM, customer service, and low-code systems as well. So, after this quick intro and a reminder about Croatia, I'm probably going to pass it over to Eric to talk about the banking of the future. Eric?
Yeah, thanks, Alex. Great introduction. So I think we're going to be taking a quick poll at this point. Is that accurate, guys? All right. So just a quick poll of the audience here. How many startups offer new financial services in today's world? So select one of the following, and we'll take a look at those results as we move forward.
Yeah, Eric, and what is your personal feeling? How many startups are there?
Well, I have a little unfair advantage, Alex, because this is part of the research I've done, but there are, it's an alarming amount, let's just put it that way. And we're going to be talking about, key challenges that financial industry has. And this is actually one of those major challenges.
All right, perfect. So let's have a quick look at the results of the poll, if we can. And wow, Eric, you see that most of our attendees believe that there's more than 10,000 startups in the fintech and financial services world.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, and again, Alex, I think that it is an alarming amount, but we have over 2,000 startups actually. But I think that that just speaks to the volume of what people are looking at as challenges in this particular market. It seems like there's 10,000 startups, and also, that we're probably working our way rapidly to that. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the upcoming slides. But great question.
Yeah, so let's get back to the PowerPoint right now, and let's look at some of the numbers that stand behind this poll.
Yeah, right? Absolutely. And let me just, here we go. All right, so I think I might have moved ahead a little. Nope, okay, here we go. All right, so, in order to understand, the need to innovate and transform, financial institutions really need to take a look at not only the challenges that they face today, but also anticipate the challenges that they'll face in the near and long term. So as we just mentioned, we saw from that poll, there are more and more challengers entering into this market. So competition is, fierce in the financial industry, and it's constantly growing. You don't have to, you just consider the usual suspects, right? Like big banks, community banks, credit unions, but you now have to focus on those non-traditional competitors like fintechs and online banks. So in this year alone, in 2020, fintech is anticipated to disrupt up to 4.7 trillion in revenue from traditional institutions. And a great example of that is the online bank Chime, right? Chime has alone attracted more than 2 million customers. And another fact about those guys is that they are adding more customers per month than heavy hitters like Wells Fargo and Citi. So, these are the current trends that, the market recognizes, but what about those competitors that we haven't even thought about yet? right? How long before we see Amazon enter into the market? If I had another polling question, I'd ask, how many people on this call have the Apple Card? What's going to be next? And it's really those organizations that can anticipate consumer preferences that are going to survive. And just as the competitive landscape is constantly evolving, so are consumer expectations. Not to pick on Amazon again here, but if we think about the Amazon Prime experience, I can pretty much find any product I'm looking for, even multiple versions of that product, in just a few clicks. I can also research products, looking at reviews, getting crowdsourced answers to my questions. I can order it with one click without having to enter my shipping or billing information, and then I can have that delivered to my house within 2 days at no charge. This is an amazing experience, but it's this kind of experience that is changing our expectations as consumers. We expect this level of availability and ease of doing business in every aspect of our life, including the way that we manage our finances. And this is me talking as a slightly older Gen Xer. Can you imagine the expectations of the generations who have known nothing but the digital age? They fully expect to have easy and fast access to information and support when and where they want it. They don't expect it to cost anything more for that level of service. So it's very interesting that the dynamics are changing, and with the fintechs and online banks coming and offering all of these different features, it's really those traditional institutions that are going to keep up with those expectations that will succeed. And if we talk about consumer preferences and expectations, we also have to talk about employee preferences and expectations as well. So these are, your internal customers, and they need the same level of care and feeding as your customers. So we can have the best laid plans to provide outstanding customer experiences, but without happy and empowered employees to execute on that strategy, those plans will ultimately fail. So if we take a look at the statistics, workers spend more than an hour a day switching between applications. This is not what employees want to be doing, right? And it makes them feel like it's difficult to deal with customer requests. Most employees want to provide a great experience, but because of the complexity that they're feeling, that may lead to some stress, some dread, and having to deal with particular customer requests, and then that might get transferred to the customer during that interaction. But if we empower employees with the tools to be informed and efficient, they're going to be happy, and then that feeling is what's going to get transferred to the customer, which ultimately leads to employee satisfaction and customer satisfaction. So in order to adapt to the changing consumer expectations and provide a differentiated level of customer experience, management teams also need visibility into the vast amounts of data that they're collecting on their customers. So the challenge that most face really is that this data is being housed in multiple systems that aren't connected. So this creates data silos and really does not give a clear picture on how they engage their customers. We need to understand what the customer's goals are, how they're connected to others within the community, or how data flows from one business unit to another business unit. So if we look at this statistic, 50 to 60% of banks' business logic is duplicated in disparate systems. This really causes a dramatic loss in resources because that has to be updated in multiple systems, and it still does not interconnect those data silos. So this really has forced banks to try and manage customer experience and processes through legacy core systems that really weren't designed to provide customer profiles or actually interconnect those functions across the bank. So a great test of digital maturity is to ask, any financial institution, how do they pull up customer data? Is it by name or is it by account number? Because traditionally, if we look at core banking systems, this is how they manage data. They look at everybody as an account number. And that really does not give that personalized customer-centric feeling to consumers.
Okay, perfect. Eric, before we move forward, let's probably answer some of the questions from our audience today, right? And then we'll proceed with some additional slides there. So Eric, in your, during your part of the presentation, you were focusing a little bit more around banks, right? But the question from the audience is whether, Creatio and the offering that we have is also suitable for other types of financial organizations, for example, credit unions.
Yeah, that's a great question. And what we find, we did mention banks a lot, but the core processes amongst most financial institutions remain the same, right? Everything is about deposits, account openings, lending. All of this is very common amongst other financial institutions, especially with credit unions. If we think about what credit unions are, they are really dedicated into the communities that they serve. Their members are, they call them members, not customers, are part owners of the organization. So providing great returns to them and providing them with the best tools and products that can be is really ultimately important. So again, those processes are, similar across many different types of organizations. So Creatio definitely is a fit for multiple types of financial institutions.
All right. Well, perfect. Thank you very much for this answer, Eric. And yeah, I would want to just to comment on a few questions that, this session is being recorded, right? And you're definitely going to have access to the recording at a later stage. And of course, we're going to be talking a little bit more about the technical side of integrating with core banking systems as we move forward. And at this moment, Eric, let's probably carry on.
All right, sounds good, Alex. Thank you. So we mentioned the digital maturity of banking systems in the last slide, but we can also see, this is how core banking systems have evolved over the years. So back in the 70s, they managed core financial functions or transactions. But over the years, they started to offer more customer-centric applications like multi-channel types of interactions and mobile solutions. But today, banks really need to be banks, and I should say other financial institutions. I keep referring to banks, but it's definitely across multiple types of institutions. Really need to focus on providing those personalized experiences that we discussed. Also connecting front office and back office processes, and then being agile enough to adapt to the next app or technology that's going to be necessary to keep up with those looming customer expectations. So will core banking systems be able to manage their core transactions as well as today's focus, what we're focused on? Maybe they're always evolving their technology, but that doesn't make it easy, and it can be expensive. So often, more often than not, the core banking system is not going to be able to manage those expectations because they're not really focused on the profile of the customer, right? And they're not focused on being able to adapt to changes quickly. So that's a big challenge. So the pain that the core banking systems are facing for most financial institutions is having to access multiple applications to manage a single customer transaction. If we think about a good example of this might be lending practice, where someone comes into a branch location or goes online and starts a loan application. So that loan application then has to go through multiple approval stages. Those approvals may happen at different levels. There may be a credit check, different systems that they need to access. Once the loan is approved, it then has to go into an underwriting process, right? So that is yet another system and application that is being used within the financial services industry. Once it's underwritten, then it has to go back to the front office for distribution to a customer, or maybe there's an onboarding process for that loan. So that really has multiple systems that need to be accessed for a single customer transaction. They can eliminate this by having a customer-centric application like a CRM to create a single user interface for those siloed and disparate systems. They also have trouble extending beyond the core functionality like account management, payments, and other financial transactions. So those are the core things that are being managed in core banking systems. But they need a system that was designed specifically to manage customer-facing processes and create holistic customer profiles across their consumer base. They lack the ability to kind of automate processes across those different groups, such as lending. And again, we just talked about that lending story. And finally, the ability to adapt to change quickly without having to spend an arm and a leg to modify a system that truly wasn't designed to perform functions beyond its intended purpose. So this is where low-code technology and out-of-the-box functionality can actually help them speed through that change management process. So to keep up with the perpetually changing environments, financial institutions really have to focus on making key changes to their business. They need to provide very personalized products, offering and services to their consumers to remain differentiated in their markets that they serve. They also need to focus on the technology that's going to support this high level of personalization and experience. Like connecting the front end and back office processes to create seamless experiences. We also have to do this without breaking the bank, so to speak, right? By customizing solutions that were not designed to do more than their intended purposes. And then, something that most organizations forget about is they need to use this technology to empower their teams to support their strategy. So they need the tools that can break down the data silos and create efficiencies across their entire organization. So that's just a quick wrap up of some of the challenges and some of the things that financial institutions have to focus on beyond their core banking systems. And Alex, I believe I'm turning it back over to you at this point to talk about how we can address that for them.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Eric. Thank you very much. So definitely when we were thinking about these challenges and these problems, we definitely are looking back in our experience working with financial organizations and institutions. And we understand that they are actually quite addressable with the help of our, three superpowers, as we call them, right, Eric? And the superpowers that Croatia has as a vendor in two very different spaces for CRM and low code is definitely the fact that we, first of all, provide a unified CRM platform for marketing, sales, and service operations. And those are actually covering quite a lot of different processes for the end users and customer-facing processes that we're going to be talking in just a few minutes. But of course, when we say processes, we definitely keep in mind that the core of our platform, the core of our solution is a very powerful BPM engine, business process management engine, that allows us to create customer-facing, and user-engaging, people-centric processes, and as well fully automated business processes that are working behind the scenes and run the integrations and data transformations and exchange. And of course, with the help of our local platform, we are as well able to go far beyond just the traditional CRM, right, and introduce to the users of the application different processes and even business applications. So if we kind of try to break down every kind of a key banking or any financial institution process into categories, we'll see that on the left-hand side here, we've got all of them kind of structured together, right? There are the CRM processes for sales, marketing, and service. There are the front office processes for customer onboarding, for lending, for card operations, middle office, and of course the corporate services for internal employees. And then if we kind of look a little bit to the right, we'll see that all of these can as well be broken down into specific operations, into specific types of processes that the users are actually running and that they are taking care of on a daily basis, right? And of course, going more to the right, we can also see all of those specific components of our CRM platform, our local platform, and our business process management engine that allow us to embed this and implement this within our solution. So what we've covered so far and what we were looking at is really kind of like the the present and the past of the financial institutions, organizations and banks, right? And what we've kind of looked at from the timeline of the evolution of those banks is really the way that those organizations have been changing over the years. And of course, within our experience, we see that more and more organizations start talking about transforming their businesses, right? Reshaping it. And the buzzword here and the kind of the term is really the digital transformation. But what are the components of the digital transformation that these organizations are going through? So first of all, those are the digitization of their key business processes, right? To bring different departments and people together to bring those operations and allow them to run a lot faster by being able to exchange the data across one application or even multiple applications. Of course, there's also the another component and the ability to be changing faster, to be able to adopt new technology, new business models, and adapt to the ever-changing business environment and the business demand that is out there on the markets, right? And of course, another quite important component is also reinvention of those ways and those processes that the organizations are engaging, not with just their internal employees, but with their customers, how well they can reinvent and rethink the whole customer journey, right? And those steps that customers and the face of that customer changes over the years as well. So before we proceed to the technical side, Eric, let's probably have a look at some of the questions that we have in the chat area. If you've spot anything interesting in your opinion, in your mind.
Yeah, Alex. So I think some of the questions that I found interesting. So we talked about implementing and digitizing processes, connecting processes. So one question that I found interesting was how long does it usually take to get an integration like this up and running?
Well, Eric, that there are very different timescales and timeframes when we talk about delivery of the MVP or some of the core functionality, core processes, and the full-blown implementation, right, from start to finish. But I would say that probably 4 to 6 weeks we can talk about the delivery of the base data model, some base business processes, and of course some base crucial integrations within those initial phases of the implementations.
Excellent. Yeah, and that's a great point, Alex. So we have a very iterative approach to deploy. So it's really about addressing things in sprints. So another great question, Alex, and I'll be interested to hear your feedback on this. How is the data shared between core banking systems and our CRM?
Well, of course, there are live integrations, there are transactional integrations, and there are more of a scheduled and bulk transactions, right? Depending on the type of the data, depending on the need in availability of that data at all times by the end users. But of course, there are different ways and different methods of integration there, right? And we definitely reshape those according to the needs of our customers and needs of our partners, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Great point. And, another point I would bring up on that is that, as we're integrating that data, that can be, bi-directional, or it can be managed in specific applications. But the important thing is that what we want to do is have the ability to combine that data in a single platform so we can utilize it to analyze. So yeah, great example of that. And if we got time for one more, Alex, I think maybe I could take this one. So the question is, we need a MarTech/SFA solution that can integrate with our legacy system. Can Creatio integrate with legacy systems? And the answer to that is yes, right? So Alex just had mentioned the different methods that we connect into other types of applications. So we are a full-fledged platform for marketing, sales, and service automation. So we have that capability built into a single platform, single customer database, single interface. But because of our open APIs and the ability to connect into other third-party applications to bring in data, we make it very easy to manage everything in a single interface. So the answer to that question is yes, absolutely. We can work with other third-party applications, bringing that data into our platform.
All right, perfect. Thank you, Eric. So let's probably carry on to the next slides that we'll be talking about the main tasks and challenges of the integrations that we face in our projects, right? And obviously, the first one are going to be probably the tasks. So what are we trying to resolve and what are we trying to achieve by establishing these integrations, right? And definitely, this is where we first of all talk about the data migration and keeping the data that has been migrated up to date, right? Where the solution that we can provide and we very often meet is really by integrating on the database level by staging tables and views. Now, of course, we also say that there is always a need on getting the actual customer product transactional data and information from customer calls and visits. And this is where, and this is also kind of reiterating to that question, how long does it take and what are the means of integration, right? As we have an open API and we have the ability to integrate with pretty much any application within any use case, right? We can utilize either our OData protocol, our web service integration, our low-code environment for web service configuration, and even utilize our process module utilities and our process engine to be triggered, be evoked from a third-party application with some transmission of parameters dynamically and execute the business logic within Creatio internally through visual BPMN 2.0 diagrams. And of course, a very usual task, and I think it's 100% recurring task in these projects, is also the integration with integration of the core banking system with multiple applications where we use an ESB, for example, and also very often we meet a need in having the ability to process high load number of requests, right? For more than 1,000 requests per second. And this is where we can use a message broker software like RabbitMQ, Kafka, or bpm'online. So there's definitely a lot of experience. There are definitely a lot of ways of achieving and addressing these tasks, right? And I'm very proud and very happy to say that our team has quite a lot of experience on these areas. And of course, the challenges after establishing these integrations is, first of all, being able to resolve the unclean data and maintain the cleanliness of the data, where within our application we do provide quite a lot of functionality around of data cleansing with our deduplication procedures and functionality, right? We definitely talk about the ongoing update of the data and the way that we can address this with our data management features and customer data platform functionality. And overall, the challenge sometimes for other organizations, for example, is to be able to establish these integrations in general, right? If they have a lack or limitations on the API side. And of course, this is where we can use and we can have a variety of options that would stand outside of the classic means of integrations or more modern means of integrations, right? But still, even though we do talk about the breadth of functionality and breadth of processes and procedures that and operations that Croatia can cover, we still understand that some of the processes are still going to be covered in the core banking systems, right? And we do understand that Croatia itself will be only working with the results of those processes. So for example, to such tasks and processes like transaction processing, interest processing and payment processing, we will not be handling those directly ourselves, but we will be collecting that information for example, like a customer 360 view on a single area, on a single page, to be able to use that in segmentation processes, for example, right? We definitely talk about such classic processes for core banking systems as loan disbursement and account management, whilst again, in Croatia, we will be using some of the components of those processes as a result of the processing, or maybe just exchange data with the core banking system to facilitate those processes that are going to be running outside of Croatia. And of course, I understand there are quite a lot of questions on this side. Let's probably have a quick poll with our audience, see what they think about what, in their opinion, is currently the biggest challenge of the core banking system integrations, right? And I know that this is a very tricky, maybe for some organizations, all of those, challenges are biggest, if you could say so. But Eric, what are your thoughts on this side? How would you predict the results of this poll?
Yeah, so I think that again, the ability of the business to adjust to the new system, I think, is going to be a key area, right? So you really have to build a digital-driven organization, right? So they need to treat digital as a priority, and that clearly needs to be articulated from a strategy perspective from the top down. So if I had to guess, I'd be looking at the ability to, have the business adjust to the new system and have that adopted across the organization.
All right, perfect. Well, let's have a look at the results of the poll, see what our audience thinks. And interesting. Well, you see that the audience almost split 30% around, ability of a new system to meet business requirements, ability of the business to adjust to the new system, and almost 15%, or the rest of the 30, really around data migration, cost, and financial terms. So what do you think about these results, Eric?
Yeah, I think that, again, they're all big challenges, but I had stated my opinion on the ability to adjust to the new system. But then again, we have to understand requirements and understand how technology is going to address them. And a lot of organizations have legacy systems. They're not typically early adopters of new technology. Because it's hard to replace those legacy systems. That's where all your data is housed. So I can see that as a big challenge as well.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so let's probably get back to the slides, and we'll talk about a customer case, right? One of our existing customers.
Yep, absolutely.
To switch the slide. So Eric, who do we have today in discussion? Okay, perfect. Oman Arab Bank.
There we go. Yeah, so Oman Arab Bank is one of our great banking customers. They got their start back in 1984, but over the years have really expanded their reach as well as their service offerings. They have a comprehensive portfolio of products ranging from retail banking to corporate and project finance, investment trading, in investment banking, trade finance, you name it. They are a full-fledged product portfolio across the market that they serve. So as with most banks, Oman Arab Bank had a large number of customer-facing processes and disconnected systems that made servicing customers a real challenge for them. They wanted to consolidate all of these processes and data into a single and easy to use interface that will enable them to, one, better serve their customers, and two, streamline their service flows to create more efficiency across their branch locations. So these are just some of the processes that they were able to consolidate and automate with the Creatio low-code platform for process automation and CRM. This has led Oman Arab Bank to consider the platform not just for the front office processes that you're seeing here, but now they're looking at ways to leverage it for their back office processes as well. So everything from HR solutions all the way through. So the challenge is that low-code has helped them solve were creating consistent processes across all of their departments, having a single platform that was agile enough to manage the implementation and evolving scope of changes that were happening during the implementation. So they were able to accomplish their goals with very limited IT resources. And as we know, most organizations are challenged from a resource perspective. They're tasked with keeping infrastructure up, but from there, we need the ability to still deploy applications and projects based on business needs. So IT departments are seeing that backlog. So we were able to help them accomplish their goals with very limited resources from their side. And beyond that, we gave them the ability to create a framework for future deployments. As we mentioned earlier in the presentation, there are just a ton of applications that are already existing within financial institutions. But as we can see, as consumer expectation grows, there are always new applications being introduced into the ecosystem. So we really gave them, kind of the framework on how to get those new applications fully embedded into their ecosystem. So I think the next slide, I'm going to let Alex share a bit about how Creatio was able to easily fit into the overall architecture at Oman Arab Bank and how they can, continue to add on different functionality.
Yes, absolutely, Eric. And of course, I don't want to go too much into the technical side of the, established integration and how it was achieved, which methods and services we were using, right? But probably this slide is best just speaking to the fact that since one of the tasks of the project for Oman Arab Bank was actually to create this single interface, this single point of access for their employees, right, to the information around their customer profiles and customer data. This is what we were really trying to achieve, right? And this was getting some of the data from e-loan systems, from the Smart Visa, from the BCSB, and of course from the website. But of course, even using the IBM WebSphere integration, to connect to all of those multiple systems, we were as well working on and getting, direct point-to-point integrations with their telephony providers, with their, Microsoft Exchange service, with their data warehouse, with their queuing software, and of course with Active Directory. So I believe what this slide is really talking to and speaking about is really the fact that we have the ability to fit into the existing infrastructure and architecture of the financial organization that we're talking to, right? And of course, it will all get down to the specific details of integrations and means of establishing them. So that being said and mentioned, Eric, I believe we have another session on the questions and answers from our audience, and let's see what we've got. You have anything in the chat area?
Yeah, there's an interesting question here, and I hope I'm understanding it right. But how easy is the acceptability of top banks in Canada to understand the necessity of changing and integrating technology to facilitate employees' jobs as well as upcoming results, especially because all of them already have their own interface and system. So I think that this is a great question that goes, just beyond Canada as well. So, welcome to our friends from the north here. But I think this is more of a global question as well. So we discussed having all of these systems in place. So it's really about driving the strategy. Everybody within the financial services industry wants to provide very personalized, very exceptional customer experience, and they have many tools existing today to kind of help with that, right? So they have their own, they already have their own interface, they have their own back-end systems, but the problem is we're not able to connect all of those different technologies that are helping them support that initiative today, right? So the idea behind bringing all of that data into a single interface is this. If you think about again, going into a branch location to calling into a contact center, that frontline front office employee may have to access 10 different applications just to manage a single transaction, right? So when we're talking to management teams at banks, we're looking at how do we streamline that process so that way we can, one, empower employees with the ability to quickly and efficiently manage customer requests, but also, again, if an employee has a difficult time servicing that customer, if they're having to switch between screens, if they're having to rely on data from other systems, that does not make that experience for them very well either. So when we talk about gaining acceptance of that, it's really a matter of going in and looking at that customer journey or that employee journey with the bank. What does that look like? How does that customer journey look today? How does that employee experience look today? Where are the gaps that we can fill with a single platform view of all of this data and easy accessibility? So we kind of map that out, and it's pretty easy to gain acceptability when you start to see the cracks in the armor, as they say, within those organizations. So it's really about analyzing again that journey and then rethinking and redefining how that journey is going to be for the bank or financial institution. I keep saying bank. So another one that we have here, Alex, I think I'm going to let you handle this one because you are more of a technical guru than I am. But the question is, what is the security standards that are maintained while setting the integration with Creatio CRM and core banking systems, especially once the data is cached?
Sure. Well, there are multiple security approaches that we've established, right, through basically the development of our platform. And it's not a simple question when it gets to it, but probably one of the things that we need to mention that at all times we as well can establish a VPN tunnel between, the core banking system and Creatio solution, just so that this, connection is double protected through a secure level. And of course, I would probably say that our technical team and our project management team will actually be able to follow up to this question with a better detailed answer, because they have, met so many different occasions and so many different requests on this side that they would be probably the best to address this question.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely agreed. And, we know that the financial services industry is one of the most highly regulated industry. I think it's probably a tie between financial services and healthcare organizations. But it is our job to to ensure that we're meeting these standards across any industry. So as Alex had mentioned, our security teams are working very hard to ensure that we're meeting those standards.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, perfect. Well, I think that at this moment, this would be it from the presentation side and from the Q&A. Eric, thank you very much for joining me today on this webinar, and thank you very much to all of our participants and attendees, and thank you for the amazing questions that we've received. Just a quick reminder that we will be publishing this webinar to our channels and our websites. Right, and of course, keep in mind that all times you can go to creatio.com and try try out the solution through a trial version that will give you a free 14-day access to the platform. Thank you all again. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Great. Thank you, guys.